Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. It also goes out on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page and my YouTube channel. And for the people who want the listen only feature, you can go to blogtalkradio.com/Lilydale Radio. I'm part of the Lilydale Radio family, so there are shows that happen throughout the week, and I encourage you to tune in and listen to all the great shows that we have for you. On my particular show, we focus on topics relating to spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, and more. And this is year 6 of Wednesdays with Willa. So you've got plenty of archive videos that you can go back and binge watch to your heart's content. Many people tell me that they really enjoy all the great guests that I have on the show, and they enjoy the wonderful topics and learning with us. And I would just want to welcome back onto the show. I have Laura Wooster. How are you doing today, Laura?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. So Laura Wooster is intuitive medium based in the Boston area, and also a minister and teacher at the Journey Within Church that's located in New Jersey. And she's been on the show before. We've talked about intuitive life and other great things. And she's back today to share with us some tips for when you feel stuck in life. And before we get into that great topic, I just want to say, if there's something that you feel stuck in your life about, go ahead and put that into the comments on Facebook. So we might be able to speak to that during this live show. So go ahead and put those in to the comments. Like I said, just write what I feel stuck about this, and then it might be able to be addressed during this live show. And I think there'll be some great tips for anyone who is needing this at this particular point in their life, or maybe this is a show you find later on in divine right timing, divine right order, that will carry you forward through a tough time. So let's jump into our topic right now. Laura, what's the first tip you'd like to share with folks?
Oh, sure. First of all, thank you for having me back on. It's a pleasure to be on the show with you. It's always lovely to see you. One of the first things I would say, especially when a lot of people come to me for mediumship readings, but a lot of times people come for intuitive advice, and they say, I'm just stuck. I need some advice. And I think, first of all, I often tell, I'll just say, just breathe. It's okay. People panic, right? I think because we're kind of in a society that feels like if something doesn't seem to be going in our direction or the way that we want it to go, we have to fix something. Like there's a problem to be fixed. Like fix it now, and they think they're doing something wrong. So that's why I often say, just breathe. Let's talk about this. Let's really feel into the situation and see what's really happening here. And so what I often find is when people feel stuck is that they think things should be different than what they are for whatever reason. And like Eckhart Tolle says, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, it's like when you accept what is, that that's when you can move forward. He says it a very different way, but I can't remember exactly his words, but I often find if you just look exactly what's happening, then you can move forward rather than trying to force it into what you think it should be. And there's so many reasons, I think, too. I mean, I'm sure you find with your clients as well, Willa, that oftentimes when people say they feel stuck, they know what they need to do, but they're afraid to do it. And so that's when we have to admit sometimes it's like, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid to make this change or to make some adjustments in my life? And there could be so many reasons for that. It could be fear of moving forward, fear of like, what's my life going to look like if I actually do get what I want? Because it oftentimes will bring change with it that you don't expect. So, and it's funny, I was having a conversation with a group of spiritually minded people the other night, and we were talking about fear. And it's like, there's a fear of what is it going to look like once I step through that door? Of change, whatever it may be that you're choosing to do, even though you should do it or need to do it, or it'll take you where you want to go. So, so it's kind of addressing the fear what's on the other side of change and the decisions you need to make, and trusting that when you know you need to make a change, that the universe will rise to meet you.
Yes. And I think that you're so right in that people have to overcome to some degree their anxiety that they have about stepping into something else or removing something from their life. Maneuvering things can take time, but we have to follow that divine hunch, that intuitive lead within us on how to proceed. And a lot of times people will stay in a negative circumstance because at least they know what to expect. There's something kind of comfortable about staying there, as much as there's that inner complaint feeling. And I just want to make a distinction for people. There's a difference between being stuck and just being at a plateau place.
Exactly. That was another point I was going to make too.
Yeah, because people can sometimes think I'm stuck. And it's like, no. You're just on a plateau. Take a moment to breathe before you have to climb again. Enjoy this for a little bit.
Yes, exactly. It's just
perspective.
Yeah, it's like, this is not stuck, it's a pause. And sometimes we need that time to regroup and to prepare for the next whatever it is that's coming, so in a good way. So a lot of times people think when things aren't quite moving just yet that they haven't worked hard enough or they haven't made the right choices. And it's like, no, it's like, and I use this analogy all the time now. It's like, no, you're at the train station. You're prepared, you got your train ticket, you're ready to go. You're sitting there waiting. Your train just hasn't come in yet. Doesn't mean you're in the wrong place. So it's just a matter of circumstances.
It is. And for some people, when they're feeling stuck in life, let's say they're at a very low point. And sometimes what they have to do is go to those basic levels of care in their life. So they just have to focus on that particular one moment, that, make your bed,
carry water.
Can carry on. Right. And I always take insight from the technique of quieting that the rabbis were teaching during the Warsaw Ghetto within the Jewish population that was stuck there. They were very stuck, and they had to focus on just making the most and having their moments embody prayer. So that if they were just setting the table, just placing that dish on the table, or that fork being very deliberate, and slowing the movement down and having purpose. So sometimes when we feel stuck, what we're being told is to slow it down a little bit more, be very on purpose
and present
and quiet into yourself, so that you don't get into this, the panic zone, right? Yeah, people could really go into spin.
We know nothing about that as mediums. No.
As sensitives, we feel our own and we feel other people's too. Oh, what fun.
Yeah. So it's just, because we can go into so many scenarios in our head about worst case scenario. And how often do we, do that and we realize those scenarios never happen. And then we realize we feel like we have to solve those issues before they even begin. So just one step in front of the other.
Yes. And I think when people feel stuck in life, there's also a tendency for them to try to take a survey from other people. You know what I'm talking about?
What do you think I should do? Should I cut my hair? I don't know.
and it's normal, it's natural. I do it myself, but a lot of times with a guest on the show, I'll say, "Do you think I should go for this color scarf today?" There's that. But I'm talking about trying to get a survey in your life and how you want to proceed. Ultimately, your life is not about ask the audience,
right?
You have to take first responsibility and make your decision to the best of your ability, given the information that you have, and ultimately what your own soul is telling you. So that's what I rely on when it comes. You can take your survey, but sometimes that's even more confusing. And people who are tuning in, have you noticed that too? A survey, and then you're like, well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. And even within mediumship readings, I do tell people in when I first am doing my intro, I say, no, your folks in spirit may have their opinions or offer their advice, but ultimately you need to listen to your own soul.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Do you find that as well, Laura?
Yes, exactly. 'Cause a lot of people are looking for that advice from their loved ones. Can they tell me what to do? And it's like,
And I tell them, if they're a trusted source, if you trusted them when they were here on the earth plane, then you can usually trust them going forward, but they can't necessarily predict the future. They may be able to indicate what they would like to see or what they feel to be a higher probability of outcome. But the life is having to unfold, and I like to call it the great mystery.
Yes. Yeah. And it looks more as an adventure, even though not all these adventures are always, what we would choose for us or the people that we love.
Yes.
But I think when we accept life, like Joe Shield often says, accepting life is on life's terms, right? And recognizing that ups and downs are part of life. And when we so many people try to fight against the potential of something negative happening, that they focus so much on that they never make any choices or take any chances, because they're trying to plan ahead for every possible outcome of anything bad that could possibly happen. But recognizing, like, I listen to this podcast a lot. It kind of shifted my mindset a bit. And I forget oh God, I think I can remember the name of it right now. Anyways, it's the person who is on the podcast. He interviews a lot of people who have successful businesses, people who are well known in their field and things like that. Very successful people. And inevitably, as they share their story about the chances they took and the synchronicities that brought them to where they were, there's always a couple of times they've made choices that took them down a path that they thought was their worst nightmare. It's like, this is like the worst thing that could possibly happen. But they learned, but then the lessons that came from it and where they ended up once everything kind of came to a rest, it took them to places where they never would have been otherwise. Mm-hmm. So when we accept, like Joe Shield says, accept life on life's terms and recognize, yes, we're going to take some chances. Yes, we're going to make some choices. Yes, it may not be 100% what appears to be safe and happy and most positive, but to know that everything eventually will work out in your favor if you keep going in the same direction, or go in the direction that you feel your soul and your intuition is leading you. And so
I do think that's a great point, because the universe is always conspiring for our greater good.
Truly, yes.
And that it comes down to that in a nutshell. And as you were talking, I was thinking about that Garth Brooks song, Unanswered Prayers. So often we try to tell God, I really want you to do this, and can you make this happen for so and so, and almost it's like, place your order, would you like fries with that kind of thing. So but it does come down to, we have to be in the flow of God's will.
Yes.
And we have to be willing to put ourselves into that stream and let go and let God, and really have that I will bring my prayer and God's peace to this, no matter how it looks, no matter how this is seemingly showing itself to me, that I have to, shift that mindset. So there's that feeling of, for every negative thought you have, that they say, go ahead and tell yourself 3 positive ones. I do think that helps, especially when you're feeling stuck.
Yes. Yeah. And also, I think sometimes just removing yourself from the thought process of how to get yourself out of the stuck feeling. Because sometimes people focus so much on trying to get rid of that feeling that it actually is best to kind of unplug sometimes and give yourself a day, a week, even a month off, to not think about, creating a solution around that stuck feeling.
Yes.
Then allows that space for your intuition to rise from within. And answers.
That is so key. If you don't remember anything else from the show, that is so key, because when we're in that moment of like feeling like we're hitting our head up against the wall, and you let go and let God, and then all of a sudden things start to get cleaned up. You almost get a little ticked, because you're like, oh, mine did not work when I tried it. And when I let God handle it, bigger hands than ours. And it's like, oh my goodness, there's a part of you that recognizes the gift that it is, but there's this other part of you that's like,
yeah. It's like,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's helpful to that. If someone needs something more tangible, like when I do it, I just say, I'm just not going to think about this today, and I'm going to sleep on it, or I'm going to go for a walk or whatever. And the solution eventually comes from somewhere, and it may be something better than what I thought it should be. And it always works out well.
Do you think that's a matter of kind of moving on to something else, kind of babysitting your brain with other things, so that your soul can speak to you? Because if it's all just rattling around in there, I found that movement is really wonderful.
Yeah, so just
getting the body moving, going out into nature, kind of letting the fresh air touch my brain, as it were. Just to kind of whoosh right through there, kind of clears some of the debris, the cobwebs of old thinking.
Yeah.
And then I can move into that space of, I am now truly receiving, instead of going, there's that scenario of, we kind of go to God with our broken toys and we say, God, will you fix this? And God says, of course I will, my child. Mm-hmm. And then you stomp your foot a little while later because you're like, why haven't you fixed this yet? Like, and then you're in the midst of that, and what does God say? How could I fix it? You never did let go. And so there's that essence, but part of letting go is letting yourself have a break from some of the things that you're obsessing about.
Yeah.
But there is a time for action. There is a time that you have to say, okay, I've been stuck here for a while, and I'm going to think about what small goal I can have right now to move forward, at least incrementally.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you say that's a good way to do it?
Yes. Yeah. When you don't know what else to do, if you're feeling stuck, like what little step can I take today? For example, I'll use this as a few pre-COVID. I remember just feeling, I don't know, I just had this sense of physically feeling not empowered. There was just something that was nagging at me. I'm starting to head into my 50s, late 40s, and I was just feeling tired. Right. So, and I felt stuck, physically yeah. So I said, I just feel like I need to talk to somebody about how can I feel more physically empowered, so then energetically I feel more empowered. So I ended up contacting my friend Terry, who's a personal trainer, and she taught me how to, go through some basic, weightlifting and things like that to really empower, my core. And what a shift in energy it was, and so what my point is that if you're feeling stuck, kind of tune into, okay, what's the essence of what it is that you're feeling stuck about? And then ask for help. Simple as that. Just ask for help. Like what can someone help you with? And it may not be the entire solution, or it may seem not logical initially, but in the long run, it actually, and I tell my students this a lot, when I learned how to strengthen my physical core, then I was able to stand more in the power of spirit energetically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's I believe our intuition leads us to where we need what we need, and eventually gives us pieces of the puzzle to build that foundation for where we really would like to take our lives.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And the physical body, when we strengthen that, we can strengthen ourselves energetically to withstand, because as mediums, being sensitive, we just don't want to be blown wherever by the wind. And so it does become a matter of being flexible, not being stagnant. When we move our legs, we're telling our body we're engaging in life and that we're not staying stagnant. And when we engage that core, we're saying, I am strong in my personal power.
Mhm.
I am rooted, I am grounded, I can make decisions from that place.
Yeah.
And you, when I do feel it is part of that vagus nerve connection as well. You know, when we have good vagus nerve tone, we're able to be more patient, but also more aware of how we need to proceed intuitively in our life. So they're all interconnected, that mind, body, spirit. And I'm so glad you reached out for help with that trainer to get what you needed. And I encourage other people to do that as well.
Mhm.
And when you say the core, it also brings me to, as a clairsentient, because you're also clairsentient as a medium too. So you know what I mean? So much of our power comes from the abdomen.
Yeah.
And so when we have that set just right, we do become better channels. We do become better holders or vessels of the energy and be able to be in that pure mind space. So we're not confused and we're not unstable. So as Harry Edwards says, one of the famous mediums and healers of long ago, he said that you need to be of even mind
Yes.
to do the work that we do. And that also means being as much as you can in evenness with your body.
Yes. So when they talk about aligning your chakras, it's what we're talking about. So you can spend a
Mhm.
lot of time up here. A lot of,
Yes.
I mean, we all, I think as developing mediums and continually being student mediums, we spend a lot of time here. And so it can get out of balance. So by moving and being more in the power of our root chakra and our solar plexus and everything, all of that,
Yeah.
all lines up. So
I've told my students before, there's a snobbery people have about the energy centers, those major energy centers of the chakras. Everybody focuses on those top three. Like, oh,
like,
the brush.
ooh.
I see things in my mind's eye. And, you know, all these, the crown chakra, the divine, it's beautiful, beautiful. But you've got to stabilize things down below
Otherwise you
and
tip
you'll
over.
feel, yeah, yeah. And once you've got those working, uh, everything is churning the way it should, the energetic centers. So just to reinforce what Laura is saying, it's a beautiful thing when you can honor that. And not saying that you won't still have moments where you are feel a bit stuck about things, but it will absolutely help so that you, when it's time to take action, you're not exhausted, you're not tired, you're not down for the count. I run into so many intuitives and mediums that are just at such low ebb because they're having to give out so much energy. So and they feel a bit stuck
Yeah. And
in that regard.
we've all been there. Like there's times when
Yeah,
we're doing a lot because the need is great. So we're doing
yeah,
a lot of work and we probably take on more work than we need to sometimes. And
right.
you can feel it. You feel that ebb just kind of, it's
So
like,
that's why I learned long ago to
yeah,
pace myself because it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah, you
yeah,
can't help everybody. And when you do, you just, yeah, do what you can.
exactly.
But do we have any questions that I haven't looked at Facebook? So let me just see if anybody has
Oh, it says that years ago I was out of work and sending hundreds of resumes without getting an interview. And I went to my empty church and I knelt down and I told God that I was placing the problem in his hands as I didn't know what more I could do. And the next day I got a call for an interview and got the job. So I'm a great believer in let go and let God. And so a lot of people are saying that let go and let God. I don't see any at this point what people might feel stuck about. But yeah, we can carry on. What other tips would you like to share with us for today?
well, I was gonna say before, like sometimes people need something tangible, right? When they're stuck. And I'll say, some people have a God box. And so you can write like there's something you want to get off your heart and mind, write it down, put it in this God box, make it like the most beautiful thing, right? But put it on your altar, whatever it is that you need to do, and then just let it go and go for a walk or do what you need to do, shift your energy, focus on something completely different. And so that's another another way to do that. And also, I mean, very similar to what the person with the comment on Facebook said, there's allow yourself the temper tantrum if we have to have it. Like why is this happening? It's like, allow yourself. We're not telling you not to feel what you need to feel. That's what I don't want to bypass anything here. So we can't bypass what we're feeling. So feel what you need to feel. Have your temper tantrum, but don't park there. Don't unpack. If you need to say a prayer, just like, go to your sacred space, whatever that may be, whether it be in your in a physical space or in your mind, and give it up to source, to God, to something bigger than yourself. And inevitably, I often find that, like, within hours or days or even just a week or so, things shift so quickly. And what we seem to be looming so large in my mind is no longer an issue. So it's just
well, sometimes people are stuck because they don't want to change, like we were saying a lot earlier. Let's say they're right? They're complaining that they're stuck, but they don't want things to change. So maybe someone has passed and they're deep in grief, and that's already been too much of a change for them. And so they're holding on to anything else, the little shimbles and bits that they possibly can, to that was their life, because they're not just grieving for that person, they're grieving for the habit of them.
Yes. Exactly.
And so they can be very stuck in grief and in those moments of, I just want it to be the way it was before they passed.
Yeah.
And it was like freeze time. And there are some literature stories of people actually stopping their clocks when people have passed. And I think of that as it's symbolic for we can do that when we're grieving for a person's passing, or grieving for the end of a phase of life that we have, an aspect of our life that we're no longer involved with, people that may not have passed, but that we're no longer needing to interact with. So there are all kinds of ways people can feel stuck, and some of these tips that we've been sharing are very effective even in those circumstances.
Yes. Yeah. And I found too, especially because a lot of people can relate to this. Obviously, before the pandemic, we're all living a life and probably, not realizing things were going to change so quickly for so many people. Circumstances change, work circumstances change, relationships changed because you weren't seeing the same people every day all suddenly. So then inevitably, even if you returned back to those scenarios, there's still going to change. There's a change there. So, and there's circumstances too where I know that I had an office that I shared with some dear friends of mine that I had no need for. 2 years into the pandemic, I said I didn't need it anymore, and so I let that go, which in itself was okay. But then the social aspect of connecting with my colleagues and friends on a regular basis in my space was gone. Right. And so, but I knew it was the right thing to do because I had my office for 5 years. I didn't need it anymore. But it was, but I had to take some moment when I think back and I grieve that time. First of all, I call them or text them to make sure they're still there. Yeah. But also I sit down and I just have a moment and I send up thankfulness and gratitude for the time that I did have in that space with them for so long. And so I shift to gratitude at that point, knowing and trusting that more in a different expression of it will be coming. So, and I find that really does help. And it actually, oftentimes circumstances will come up and a friend will, and when I do that, one of them will call up and say, we got to get together for lunch. It's like, good. Someone they got the message. So it's so I think it's just accepting what is, have gratitude for what was, and knowing that good things are still coming.
Especially when you're in the process of redefining the life. And sometimes in a reading, the spirit loved one will indicate that the client is going through what I call a life revolution, where every aspect of life is shifting. And they're having to really move. And sometimes it was a case of, they got the tap they got the nudge and they ignored those things. And then, they get the shove off the chair.
Yes.
And so then they really have to boot scoot through life. And I do feel during that time, life revolution, and it could be a time of instant karma. Karma, when people think about karma, they think, oh, next lifetime or 20 years down the road, later. But sometimes that instant karma is in that weeks, days, minutes. So when you feel stuck, I would, and things are trying to shift around you, being very impeccable with your word and deed would be a strong recommendation I have for you. When you feel stuck, be impeccable with your word and your deed, because it will come back to you so fast, so very, very, very fast.
Point. Yes.
And so if we're stuck in that space, we need to say, okay, I am not going to go into gossip. I am not going to go into negative self-talk or negative talk. I am going to be extremely honest and ethical in all my dealings with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that also means that the energy that you need to propel yourself into a new version of yourself or a new envisionment is that all of that energy can go so strongly into the movement, instead of down that rat hole of those other activities, shall we say.
Exactly. Yeah, oftentimes I'll recommend the 4 agreements, like just like you said, be impeccable with your word, right? And it does, when things get chaotic, it's oftentimes a good thing to go back to and just focus on those four.
Because it would be the time that you start, well, this is hard in my life, so I deserve to a lot of times people go cakes and cookies and other things. So I deserve to eat this, emotional eating, or I deserve to spend this money because this is so horrible in my life, and this is what's going to make me feel good to have the next Gucci bag or whatever. So I might not necessarily.
What's that like?
I never lived that life myself, but it's that idea of when you feel stuck, it's not necessarily a time to go into those extreme coping.
Yes.
In those extreme, what I would consider extreme, but it's a way to go into those coping strategies within you of just the basic needs. What do you need to do? One foot in front of the other, impeccable with your word and deed, and stay very focused on those. Go into spiritual practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have a spiritual practice that you can go to. If you have to, right, if I know a lot of times I would love to meditate every single day for half an hour. Like I used to do that, and it was like the best thing for me. And I know it was. It's like one of those things. It was one of those spiritual practices I knew was good for me. But as time got on, I got away from it. So what I like to do is write down 3 things that I can go to when I'm feeling disempowered or feeling a little chaotic, or I'm start spinning into like panic mode or whatever. And
Can't wait to hear them.
Yeah. What's that?
I can't wait to hear them.
Well, I'll just say, like, my point with that is, when things are good, when things are going well, write down the 3 things that you can go to and tuck it away, so that when you're kind of going into a chaotic space, you can open your notebook and say, okay, what do I need to focus on, rather than going for example, I know there's somebody I know who like goes for like a sleeve of Oreos or a pint of ice cream when they start going into that space, they're spinning. It's like, so rather than going to that's our thing, right? Is going to that list, the top 3 things that you can go to. Pick one of those things and go to that first before you go to the things that eventually you're going to regret.
That's right.
So have that ready when things are good, so that you don't have to struggle to find what that is. And the other thing too is let yourself go, give yourself permission to let go of what you should be doing. Like there's always things, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. Let go of that and just say, maybe today I just need to go for a walk out in nature. and let go of the shoulds for a little while. That's a really important thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Regroup.
exactly. And go to your spiritual practices that you wrote down in good times, right?
Another thing that I've noticed is because a lot of times friends will call me up and things will be going, they're stuck in their life, or they're having this sort of issue. And sometimes what they need to do is truly unload,
Yeah.
truly just unload, find the person that you know that is your safe place. That's not necessarily going to tell you what to do when you feel stuck. Before, when I was talking about the ask the audience and taking a survey, sometimes people just, when they're stuck, they need to unload.
Yeah.
And then after they've unloaded, then there's this unfurling energetically that happens in them.
Yeah.
And they're able to make room for the true solution or the true energetic mode they need to enter into.
Yes, exactly. And an important note to make with that as well, when you go to that person or people, whether it be a therapist or a close confidant, is to let them, I'm just venting. I don't need advice right now. And it's okay.
Right.
It's them off the hook. They don't feel like they need to fix it for you.
Exactly.
And they can just listen to you and go, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
understand why you feel that way.
Yeah,
That's
because sometimes what we need is a listening ear, but there is a difference between venting and complaining. So if you
yes.
find that you're doing this on a habitual level, then that's not really helping me be unstuck. That is me. They've added a new. What is it? You know how there's fight, flight. There's another one, and now there's fawn. There's a fourth one called fawn.
Fun. Really?
And it's when you want people want to kind of have that victim mode and stay in that stuck victim space.
Yeah.
So they encourage themselves to stay in that.
Because the intention it gets them. Yeah.
Right.
It
Right.
also keeps them focused from not moving forward and making the choices they need to make. That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you find yourself in that spot, like don't unpack there, move on, right? Find like
That's right. Recognize it. And I do feel that there's a place for people to learn how to pivot. Like you kind of look at life as a dance. So maybe if you need to put some music on, get some dancing music on that you can just unleash for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it may be what you need to be able to take the next flexibility pivot in your life so that you can be flexible in your body and then in your mind and in the rhythm of your energy. And then you're in that space of being able to take that pivoting action in a decision-making mode that'll happen for you more intuitively. That's worked for me in the past.
Yeah. For me too. So when I sometimes when I get people who ask me like, I'm just stuck, what do I need to do here? It's like, they're they're choosing to do things that they feel other people think they should do or what society thinks they should do, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, what is it you want? And they say, I don't know what I want. It's like, well, if you can't figure out exactly what you want, try to come up with some key words, like in a broader sense of what you want. So I know someone who made a big decision recently to not go into retirement, but to step away from a particular line of work they've been doing for 40 years. And they just need a change, but they don't know what they want. It's like, are you sure you don't have any clue what you want? I have no idea what I want.
I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Right. But we were able to distill it down to some broader terms, and one of those things is just come up with some keywords that will sort of get you in the right direction. And what were those keywords? Peace. I need peace. We don't know what peace, what that will bring eventually, but look for the keywords. So peace, a chance to breathe, things like that. Just allow yourself to write down and journal those words. Even in I know, and some people who they want to solve things, they want action steps, and they gotta do this, this, and this. And those words don't necessarily instill those just yet, but it gets you to identify what is it that you're craving in your life, what is it that your soul is wanting for you, what your intuition is leading you towards, even if you don't know what direction that's in. So for example, this person, peace of mind, time to breathe, all these things. So what's the next thing you need to do? And they took that action step of sabbatical, basically. to give themselves, their intuition, a chance to something to arise from within, to try to do different things, use their brain in a different way. Because their brain's been working in a certain direction for 40 years in a particular job, right?
There's quite a groove, a pattern in the brain at that point.
And they were craving a different way of thinking and a different way of interacting with people, coming from a corporate environment to something different. Yeah. And so oftentimes it's your brain, your mind, your consciousness craving a different way of experiencing the world. But giving yourself the space to do that. Now, not everybody has the ability to be able to step back and do that, but where can you incorporate some of that into your life? It could be something as simple as if you can't step away from your work, a lot of us cannot do that, right? It could be something as simple as taking a different road to work. I think Joe Dispenza, I think it was Joe Dispenza that said this. Like try, if you brush your teeth the same way every day, switch hands and use use your other hand, use your less dominant hand. Do something different every day, because then your brain will start to react in a different way and respond in a different way. So start with little baby steps. If you can't run, crawl. So where can you instill different ways of thinking into your day without adding more to your day, if that makes sense? Because a lot of people, they're like, I can't add more. It's like, no, you just need to shift. Try something a little different. If you're used to watching horror movies all the time, watch a documentary. Although some documentaries are horror stories. I don't know, anybody Netflix people out there? But anyways, but just anything, if you read a certain genre of book all the time, if you're always reading spiritual books, read a fiction book for once, or a historical book, or
a little what I call junk food.
Yeah, or biography or something. Yeah. Shift the way you're experiencing life so that you can it gives your intuition something to work with, so that you can see things differently eventually, and it will come through that. So, so there's plenty of ways to be unstuck.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned about it can be as simple as brushing your teeth a little differently, taking a different path to and from work or wherever you're going. I mean, that's I think a Chinese medicine understanding of Feng Shui and the energy as well, that you want to go on a different path, that somehow the way you go to a place, go a different path on the return. It just keeps things fresh within you. And then to speak to the other point you were making, that when people are wanting to be unstuck, they have to try something new and not just watch the same old, read the same old. I do find that people could get very sucked into watching too much TV or watching too much stuff on their phone, or going in and here they are, they're stuck, and they don't have any time to really, or they think they don't have any time to process or take action, and yet the first thing when they wake up in the morning, they're on their social media. And so there's that action step of, let's not have that be the first thing you do. Let's not have that sidetrack you if you're really feeling stuck, as much as you maybe want a little bit of the breathing moment of being wrapped up in somebody else's life, or I've been known to watch cooking show things. Like, I don't know.
But do you love to watch the cooking shows?
Like, oh my gosh, look what they made. That looks delicious. But we then also have to say, well, what do I need to get accomplished in my life? So when I'm starting the day, I usually start with a prayer. And it could be as simple as, God, thank you for this day. Thank you for blessing me in my work and my play. And like I like rhymes. I know it sounds a little kid of me, but it works. Yeah, and then I start to think on, okay, these are the things I want to set as far as my intention for the day. And then I go to it. Yeah. I go to it so that I'm not wrapped up, and then I don't have the excuse of, well, I didn't get to that, or I'm still stuck in this particular gerbil wheel of thinking, because I've at least set the intention, and then moved into right practice. That's what I keep reinforcing with my students, is it's a combination of right intention and right practice. And that's how we can stay unstuck too, by
Yeah.
finding the rhythms that are crucial and accurate for us energetically.
Yes, and being gentle with ourselves when we stray from that occasionally, because you will.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're human, and I think it's definitely progress over perfection. That's what it comes down to. It's all about progress. And we can't just batter ourselves because we weren't perfect in a certain way. We have to look at that sometimes modifications get results about things, right? And if we're not able to do something in whole or completely as we had wanted to, that sometimes it's about learning and practicing that so we can become better in our lives, in our mediumship, in our interactions with other people, and how we look at ourselves as healing beings on this earth.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful.
Do you have any other tips you'd like to share with folks today?
Let me see. I
I
think
know we covered a lot of ground so far.
Yeah, we did. It's like, I think it is just to be gentle with yourself. I mean, that's probably the main thing. Like we already touched upon that, but and if you're feeling stuck, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. That's really important to remember, because people think I've done something wrong, I'm off track. I don't have the mental capability. I'm not smart enough to think my way out of this. Like, people beat themselves up so much. And that's probably the reason why some people panic and they ask everybody around them what they should do, and it's because they think they're doing something wrong. Where I really
Well, they could be. I will say they could be.
They could be, but it also, yeah, that's true. Not all the time though.
Right.
But
Generally speaking.
yeah, generally speaking, you're absolutely right. Yeah, thanks for bringing me back on that one. But but yes, but recognize not all the time, if you're feeling stuck, that you're doing something right. It could just be a pause, and it could be an opportunity to allow the universe to catch up to all the hard work you've been doing. Maybe that you're supposed to pause and listen in and say, maybe I'm supposed to be pivoting here. And gives you a chance to do that. Say, no, this feels okay. Just things just aren't quite moving yet. And that's all right. And just because things aren't moving in the right direction that you think it should be going just yet, does not mean you're on the wrong path just yet either. So, yeah.
Yeah, good point. And I think that's food for thought for folks when they feel stuck in a certain aspect of their life. A lot of great tips that you've been able to share with us, and great discussion. Hopefully the people can really feel that they can set some small goals for themselves and big goals for themselves, but learning how to kind of unstick from our thought processes.
Yeah.
Is very, very helpful. That obsessive thinking of I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it's especially hard. I know we're getting to the end of our show here, but it's especially hard if other people are telling us that we are stuck.
Yes, like you should be doing this, and that this, this isn't yeah, if you're not doing this, then you're not successful, or that's like a big no. It's like,
so
no.
What comes to mind is Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
So I don't know how familiar my viewers and listeners are with Winnie the Pooh, but if you've had children or love children, you know who Winnie the Pooh is. Christopher Robin, and there's Piglet, and there's Rabbit and Tigger. Right. So at one point he eats too much honey, and he's trying to leave out the door at Rabbit's house, and he's stuck. He's really, really stuck. And they're trying to push him out. They're trying to pull him out. Gopher comes along, wants to dynamite him out. They're all trying to think about how to unstick Pooh. So he just has to kind of sit there, and he starts losing weight because he's not eating. And eventually they're able to kind of get him out. So sometimes things take time.
Yeah.
And things take time. And even if you have a crew that says this is how you're supposed to be unstuck, sometimes you just have to wait it out.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from that Winnie the Pooh story, that sometimes you just have to wait it out. And I could tell that Pooh didn't want to be stuck. he didn't, but he had made a situation for himself.
Yeah. Mhm.
And of course it irked Rabbit to no end that he then couldn't use that particular door. So I just want to address the guilt you might feel because you feel stuck, because other people are telling you you're stuck and you're like, they're depending on me to unstick myself here.
Right.
And I can't do it for the life of me.
Yeah.
And you, at some point, you just have to say, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. Yes, I might have a team of people telling me how to do this, but I just have to wait and it will come. This too shall pass and you will be unstuck. And we have to move into a measure of faith and trust in our life. Yeah. And the lesson that we learn from those occasions and from those interactions with people, I think are invaluable. And then we're able to help others possibly who have been stuck in that kind of arena or issue in their life too. Don't you find that to be the case, Laura? That when you felt stuck and then you meet someone and you're free of that and you meet someone else who's also had going through that, you're able to help them a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The compassion.
There's been definitely times I've been felt stuck in my life. And I just felt I found over time, I'm finding I'm having that less and less happening less and less because I'm trusting more.
Yes.
Allowing myself the time to tune in more to what I need in the moment, the day, the week, whatever, and what direction I need to go in. So the more you put into practice, the easier it gets. Doesn't mean we don't have bad things, like bad things don't happen in your life. That's not what I'm saying here. Or you're not going to feel stuck at some points, but it just happens less and less because you're just going to let things be sometimes.
That's right. You give yourself and others a lot of grace.
Yeah.
As you move through life. And that will make a big difference in how you view what's occurring. Well, thank you so much, Laura. This has been great to have you on the show today. It was great tips, and please let us know you love the show. Give us a comment, and certainly I want to mention Laura does have some classes coming up that you're teaching with the Journey Within. As I mentioned, that she does teach. I think it's in April that you'll be teaching next. Is that right?
Yes, I'll be at the Journey Within in New Jersey at the end of April, doing a Den with Joe Shield and a 4-day class with him as well. So it's time to get back to in-person learning. We have to come back. As much as we love online learning, I think it's a totally different experience to be in person, especially in the sanctuary, the Journey Within. It's such a beautiful, peaceful, spiritually charged place to work in. If you have the opportunity to come and learn in person there, come on down. We'd love to have you.
Beautiful. And you can find out more information about Laura on Laura Wooster. I want to say her name correctly. Sorry, everyone. Wooster. .com. So Wooster. I gotta get the Bostonian accent going on there. It will take time. Thankfully, Laura is very patient.
That's so much. It's so fun chatting with you, Willa. I hope so much.
It's great. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you next week on Wednesdays with Willa. Same time, same place, 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page. All right, everyone, have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.